Have you ever felt that motherhood is heavier than it's supposed to be? You love your child, but you still feel guilty, overwhelmed, and like you're disappearing. Maybe it's not because you are doing it wrong. Maybe it's because you're carrying invisible motherhood blocks. In this video, I walk you through the 7 most common motherhood blocks and the way how to release them. When I became a mother, I didn't realize how many invisible blocks I was carrying. From society or from my own mother, I had this idea of how a good mother should be, and these invisible blocks made me feel guilty, overwhelmed, and I just thought I had to sacrifice myself to never disappoint my child and to do everything possible to make him happy and loved. Slowly, these invisible rules made me feel less like myself. So if you feel the same way, you are at the right place at the right time. So what is a motherhood block? A motherhood block is an invisible belief or a pattern that once kept you safe or it helped you feel like a good mother, but now it keeps you stuck. So it is not your fault at all that you have these invisible blocks. Every one of us has some of them, or all of them, or even more than the 7 that I will show in this video. It is just your body's protective mechanism working through its way, but our job now is to recognize these and start to release them, because actually these are not helping us anymore. So these blocks are something to notice, understand, and then release it slowly. So the first block is that so many of us are praised for. This is the self-sacrifice block, meaning that a good mother puts herself last. So an example could be that you are making dinner for your whole family, you're serving dinner for everybody, but you still eat at the kitchen or while standing up where everybody else is enjoying their lunch. For me, a personal example would be for self-sacrifice. I used to sabotage myself with self-sacrificing in a way that I would never buy something for myself. I would rather buy for my family, for my partner, and I would never put my needs before my family's needs. So I broke this by replacing sacrifice with sustainable self-care. What I mean by that, an example could be that you are actually sitting at the table, or you go and shop for yourself that you need, that matches your own need first, or you spend 20 minutes alone and start to write a journal. This is personally what I did. So I started to spend 20, 30 minutes alone, just writing to my journal and spending this quality time with myself. So you should ask, what would support the family, including me, the whole family unit, including you? What would serve this unit? Because at the end of the day, if you are charged and nourished, then your family will benefit from you, from your energy, even better when you are drained and just overwhelmed, and when you sacrifice yourself too much. So a really great phrase and affirmation that you can think of is, taking care of myself is not taking away from my family. It's part of how I care for my family. As I said, you can just try a tiny experiment this week if you feel like it, and just do something when you would otherwise sacrifice yourself. So choose a thing that you normally would skip and make it as a family priority this week. The second block is scarcity block, which translates to there is not enough money, time, health, energy, or space for me. Some examples for this is when I was thinking that I don't have time for this now because I have a small child to take care of. I don't have time to go to this workshop I'm excited about. I don't have enough possibility to try out something new. So it's like you avoid dreaming because it feels so out of reach and unrealistic. And you might be jealous for other mothers who you think they might have more energy, more time, or more freedom and ease in their lives. You should look for micro abundance, like micro possibilities. So instead of dreaming about spending 1 or 2 full days at a spa, you can start to work with tiny amount of times. 15 minutes in the bathtub, for example. Maybe you can trade time with your husband or your mother or mother-in-law to take care for your kid a little bit while you're taking care of yourself. So a realistic thought could be that I don't need unlimited time to feel abundant. I can start to work with what I have. So if you start to look for it, maybe you will realize that you have tiny pockets of times, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, to feel more abundant and to get out of this scarcity block and just to try to do something for yourself in these tiny amounts of time that you already have. So a tiny experiment could be that you write a list of some resources that you already have, like time. When do you have some time when you can do something for yourself? People who could ask help from, tools you can use to start something new that you are excited about, knowledge that you can access and learn, money, routines that you can implement, and spaces that you can fill in or go in and have it as yours. So just try to be creative about it. What are the resources that you already have and that you can maybe transform a bit to suit your needs and to feel more abundant? Third block is the perfection block. If I cannot do it perfectly, I don't even start. So, for example, you won't start exercising because you know you cannot do the full program. You won't start something big as a YouTube channel, writing a book, doing a painting, composing a music, whatever you're into and interested and talented in. You just don't start it because you know you cannot do it perfectly, so why bother? Or you feel bad when the dinner, what you were making to your family, became too simple and you felt like you should have done more and you should have done it more perfectly. Also, you might over research at every parenting decisions because you want the best for your children and you feel like this is the only way to give it, to make sure that this is the most correct information and way of doing as possible. So you can start with the minimum beautiful version, the minimum viable product, if you're familiar with those business terms. So not a minimum as being lazy, but minimum as being doable. So for example, a 10-minute walk as your exercise, 10-minute run as your exercise, a simple lunch for the family, or a messy first videos that I'm doing currently, or just good enough bedtimes, good enough parenting, good enough conversation with your family. One affirmations that you can use to release this block is done with love is better than perfect and never done. This block has blocked me for a long time. So I started this YouTube channel over a year ago, but then I stopped because I felt I needed to do this perfectly and I don't have time for it and I don't have the resources for it. So as you see, those blocks can build on top of each other or correlate with each other, because then I had this perfection block and also the scarcity block coming together and just blocking me from doing what I enjoy and just to try out myself in a new direction that maybe will lead to something bigger, and then hopefully I can reach people who I can help and support. So a tiny experiment for the perfection block could be to try to do something just not perfectly, just a B plus, just a level of good, like not best, but just good. And do it intentionally to level B or B plus, that it's not your best, but you did it and you getting over it and you're done with this task. And just try to think like, how did it feel? Did anything terrible happen when you just let it be good enough and didn't try to put the extra work on top of it? And the fourth block makes the perfection even louder when we start to comparing. So the fourth one is the comparison block, where the core belief is that other mothers are doing better than me. So if you think that I'm doing it better than you, then you probably have this comparison block. And I have to tell you that I'm not doing better than you. So this is just a block that you should go through because it limits your possibilities. For example, when you see a mom baking a beautiful cake or working out, having a good body, have kids that looks beautiful, has a home that looks beautiful, and you start to compare your life, your children, your partner, your house, your income to these mothers. You can start and go into rabbit holes about comparing each other's child's sleep, feeding routine, milestones, clothes, birthday parties, and there's no end to it. It just eats up your precious energy. So what if you would turn this comparison into information, not punishing yourself, but just gently asking yourself, like, that what am I admiring here? For example, I met a woman recently who I admired so much because she had the confidence in herself. And I realized that this was the reason why I liked her, because deep inside me, I also want to have this confidence and this power in my decisions. And probably I don't want to be her. I don't want her whole life to be mine. But maybe you have something similar that you felt with a person, that you admired her creativity, her energy, her confidence, and you just want maybe more help or more beauty in your day. So a reframing thought could be that her life is not evidence that I'm failing. It is just information about what I desire. So next time when you notice that you start to compare yourself with someone else, you can try to grab your notebook and write down that I'm not jealous of her. I am noticing that I want this and this and that. And that is an absolutely useful information for you. Maybe you will act on it right away. For example, if you like her clothes, maybe you go and buy something similar to yourself. Or maybe you just keep it in the backlog. For example, I like her house, and then you will just store this information and you will know about this about yourself, and you might act on it or you might decide to not act on it. The fifth one, which I actually mentioned a bit during the first block, the self-sacrifice block, is the guilt block, which could translate into, if my child is unhappy, I'm doing something wrong and I feel guilty about it. So how it shows up, for example, in my life, is that currently I want to stop breastfeeding, but I haven't started yet because I feel guilty that I have the source of happiness for him. So, for example, during the night, it's just so easy to feed him and he goes back to sleep because I don't want to upset him. I don't want him to spend the night crying. I don't want my partner to spend the night soothing our child or just to not be able to sleep. I feel guilty because I have the need of stopping breastfeeding and I have the need to have my own body and my own boundaries, but I still feel guilty for it. So this is a reason why I procrastinated stopping breastfeeding for a while now. But it has to happen soon because I cannot cope with it anymore. But you might feel guilty for going to work, needing alone time, not playing enough with your child. Whatever is enough, right? It's always just a number in your head. Who knows what enough is enough playing? Or you might feel guilty about feeling bored by motherhood. And so, how can you break this? Is actually, I said it in my example that for me, the guilt around stopping breastfeeding is actually my boundary showing up in action because you need to separate guilt from your values. Because when you cross your values, you probably feel guilty for a reason. But mom guilt often says that I have a need, I have a boundary, I have a desire, and that makes me a bad mom, which is not true and it's not the same thing. So you should not feel guilty about those things because you just need to notice that something is not right. Your boundaries have been crossed. You have a desire that you are not able to pursue. And you just need to notice it. A releasing thought could be that I can be a loving and caring mother and still have limits, desires, and needs. The sixth block is the waiting block, where the core belief is that I'll start when life gets easier. I'll start when my baby sleeps through the night. I started when I'm over with the pregnancy. I start until I lose baby weight, until you have more money, until your child is older, until you feel more confident, until you have a perfect plan. You see, everything is interconnected. Here's the perfection block as well, connected with the waiting block. So I spent a lot of time waiting for my son to be older, to go to nursery so I can start this YouTube channel properly. If there's a way to start it properly, I'm still just waiting until my son gets older to start to really put myself together. I wait until he can sleep through the night. But instead of waiting, I should have just asked what is possible for me right now. Because this period is messy, that's true, but it doesn't mean that you have to wait. Also, an example that I am pregnant and I don't wait and don't pause my life to wait for the baby. I don't pause my life just to make sure the pregnancy will be perfect. I try out new things. I show up here. I show up in my life. And I don't just wait anymore because I actually feel that I don't have to wait for an easier life to start living like myself. So you can maybe choose a desire for this week that you've postponed and just start to do it. You remember, you don't have to do it perfectly. You have the time and space enough. You just had enough. You don't need a lot of time for it, and just start. So you don't have to start a business, but just write one idea down. Start with baby steps. You don't have to get fit instantly, but just start with 10 squats. And you don't have to be creative again, but just record something, paint something, draw something, just one tiny baby step at a time. And the last one is a big one. It is the rescue block, which can translate to it is my job to prevent everyone from struggling. For example, you might overhelp your husband and family, and you volunteer to do everything from the dishes to cooking to cleaning to laundry to being with your kid, and you are over helping them because you want to prevent them from struggle. And this hits home for me big time. Since me and my husband became parents, I am over helping him actually. And I go and try to rescue him as much as possible. So whenever our son needs something, I volunteer immediately that I do it, I pick it up, I'm bringing it. Yes, I can do that. I can go with him to the park while you can just stay here and relax. So first of all, it's also a self-sacrifice and a rescue block. But the thing is, I don't need to rescue him. He's a big boy. He's a father. He needs to be with our son. He loves our son and our son loves him. So why can't they just be together? And maybe I can rest if I need to, or we can do something together with equal responsibilities. And this block can also show up in a way that you are rescuing your child. You jump there if something might happen with them. You solve a problem because they can solve it themselves. Because it might feel easier to go and help and do the thing than let them do it in an imperfect and slow way. So, for example, when I was walking with my child, I sometimes get bored and frustrated of how slowly we go because we are stopping to watch every piece of grass, every piece of rocks, and every bird poo and everything on the street. And I sometimes get frustrated and put him in the stroller or just pick him up and go because I just want to feel that we are moving forward because this is what I am sadly used to. But instead of that, I should just be a supporter. I should just support him and just watch him learning about the rocks. Watch him learning about the bird poo, and your partner is allowed to fix something. Even if he doesn't do it the same way as you've done it, just try to let him do it. And people are allowed to have feelings without us coming and fixing it right away. Whenever my husband has some feelings that I sense that something's not all right over there, I keep on asking him, what's wrong? What happened? Just tell me what's wrong. Come on, I can see you. Something's wrong. And then he's just so sick of it. And then I got sick of it. And then this whole conflict just starting and everything becomes just even worse than it was before. So a takeaway from me would be that people can have feelings without me rushing there trying to fix it. And a releasing thought for this block could be that I can be present without taking over. Just be there, watch and learn, and just pause for 10 seconds before going over and just ask, do they need rescue, support, or just space? In the last example, my husband probably just needed some space. And I was there up in his face 1 millisecond after I sensed that something is wrong. And I was like, hey, what's wrong? Tell me what's wrong. Why don't you tell me what's wrong with you? You know, it just probably needed some space. So that was the 7 most common mothering block. And don't feel bad if you have all 7s, because I do have all 7. I try to release them, but it's like a continuous process. I am better in some areas than others. I feel I released some of them, but sometimes they still jump back, and I still need to just let them go and repeat the releasing thoughts and affirmations and just let them go again and again and again. So now you don't need to try to fix all the 7 at once. You can just ask what felt uncomfortably familiar from this video. Which one of the 7 block was the most familiar for you, where the most example came to your mind, and just start with that. Just notice in your everyday life, release it, and try a tiny experiment for a week to just see how life is without this block. Whenever you recognize a block, just go and write down what is the block that you have recognized, what was the old belief that you lived by, what would be the new rule instead, and a tiny experiment to try out over the week to experiment of how life would be without that block. The goal is not to be a perfectly healed mother overnight. The goal is to slowly and steadily recognize these blocks and then gently release them, and just slowly create a motherhood that feels more honest and more authentic to you. So tell me in the comments which block you recognize the most. Thank you so much for watching this video. See you in the next one.